Hello everyone, welcome to Project Cars Open Wheel. So I thought I'd do a video then just dedicated to the open wheel cars, because of course that is pretty much where I started, wasn't it, with my channel and things like that with F1. So I thought I'd do one just for open wheels. So we'll run through the 3 open wheel cars, the Formula C, Formula B and Formula A. I'm not sure what I straight away spent out the pits there. And the Formula A is supposed to be Formula 1, and the other two are supposed to be lower formulas. I'm not sure if they're based on a particular formula or what, but Formula A is basically a Formula 1 car. So we'll run through them, and this is more of a video to kind of compare the handling and the feel of the cars. So it'll all be on the same track all at the same time of day, and generally I'm going to do an out lap and then a hot lap, and that's pretty much all I'm going to do. As again, I have a half a spin there, so just trying to get used to this car. And it's only the second time I played the game, because I've been quite busy this week, so I just did that a little bit on the opening launch night, and this is a few days later, so just sort of trying to get back into it now. And already I'm quite liking the feel of this car, just of course getting used to it and just trying not to spin out, but I'm quite liking the feel of it. And before this, I just checked in my settings. I mapped the DRS and curves buttons for a start, and I just checked in my settings. The ABS was off, traction control was off, everything is off. I can confirm that, because there's been an awful lot of confusion on Twitter, and I just catch the curb there, and that was my fault. That's probably actually realistic. Maybe a little bit overkill, but it is probably the catch my wheel, the inside wheel on the curb. But yeah, there's been an awful lot of confusion on this game. It feels like, to me, almost like the games are very different depending on what wheel we run or depending on what platform you're on. There's been, for example, I was speaking to Noble2909, who was saying the Formula A car, which you'll see later in this video, it locks up really, really easily. Well, I just don't find that, and you'll find this all through the video. You will see the tyres lock, so I've got ABS off, but I'm often full braking pressure, as I mentioned in the, I think I mentioned in the P1 video. It's I don't know, it's strange. It's strange. It just doesn't, it just feels a bit numb. That's probably the best way to describe it. And the rear end's really lively, saw that. The rear end and the power is really lively and really fun. They've got that quite right. But I don't know, it's just the feel with the brakes and the front end just doesn't seem to be quite right from what I can see. But we're starting to hop now anyway in this Formula C car. And so it's just about topping out at 150 miles an hour. The front right is a little bit cold, but I'm sure that'll warm up by the time we get partway around the lap. And getting down to third. And I haven't done any practice. This is literally my my second lap on this circuit with this car. And is that flat through there? That sounded pretty flat through there. And the front right still isn't hot. So that's not a great job by me. It's going to cost me a little bit of time, surely. Not quite having that much temperature. And it's quite simplistic on the bottom right there. I'm talking about the 3 green rectangles and the blue one. And it's quite unrealistic. Well, not unrealistic, but it's quite simplistic, that display at least. I feel like the tyres do gradually warm up, but that display just tells you whether they're good temperature or not good temperature. That's all it tells you, which I guess is all you really need to know. But the tyres do gradually warm up. Like, you can sort of feel them warming up gradually. So a little bit of oversteer there, but I get away with that one. And yeah, so this car's actually probably the most fun of the 3, actually. And I just, again, hook on the inside curb a little bit there, because it's quite predictable. The brakes still aren't sharp enough, but again, this is I'm running full standard setup and everything. So standard car setup, standard wheel setup, everything's standard. I've configured it all so it works, but I've not tweaked anything. But to me, I shouldn't have to. It's a mainstream game. I shouldn't have to tweak anything. So this is what I base it on. I mean, I might do some tweaking in the future, but this is what I'm sort of starting with for now. And yeah, for me, the brakes is the worst bit. I just can't. I'm probably losing a lot of time on the brakes, because I could probably be a lot more aggressive with them. But I'm trying to be cautious, as you'd expect to have to be. And just touching the curb there, and they just don't lock. You know, you actually I could go full brakes all the way into the corner, and only if I start turning would they start locking. And as we complete a lap there, and we'll try to compare the lap times. I think that was a 1 minute 40. Yeah, low minute 1 minute 40 that lap time was. And you saw there the tyres locking as I was braking, so that just proves I've got ABS off. So move along now to the Formula B car. So we'll do the same format. We'll do an out lap and then a hot lap, and well, this car's a bit livelier. You see this straight away. That was me being cautious on the throttle as well. That was only about half throttle, so it's definitely livelier. It's a lot more power than the previous car, and this feels like almost like a Formula 1 car. This is a lot closer to that previous car. The previous car was perhaps, I don't know, Formula 4. Perhaps, I don't really know. I don't really follow the other formulas. This feels more like a I won't say Indy car, but it's not so good as an Indy car. So massive spin there, straight into the barriers, and not the best of starts from me. So let's restart that, and straight away this is more tricky to drive. You saw that, more power, easier to spin the wheels up. So it is much trickier to drive. So we'll start again. And yeah, so it's like I said, I actually find the Formula C the most fun. So this isn't so fun, actually, it's the Formula C, but it is more powerful, more tricky to drive. Same problem with the brakes, though, I found. Still trying to be so cautious on the exit. See the bottom right there, the tyres start cold in these lower Formulas. In the Formula 1 car, they do start warm, so they start with tyre blankets, which is quite nice to have that little bit of realism in there. And I did try the Audi R12, is it R12? Yeah, no, R18, that's the one. R18, the LMP1 car, Audi LMP1 car, and similarly that starts in tyre blankets, and that'll be a separate video. I was going to tag it onto this one, but it's already about 15 minutes this video, so it's about right. But yeah, back onto this car. So it's very lively on the rear again, but it's quite, you see for now, it's really quite understeery, but that is because the tyres are cold. That does come back a little bit, but it's still quite understeery. And I don't know if it's on this one or the Formula 1 car, but you get some weird, it's a little bit too forgiving on oversteer, which is why I've been able to, I mean, I did spin, I realised on this outlap, but it's why, like, when I jumped in the P1, I was able to catch the oversteer and not really spin too much. It's hard to describe, and I'm not good at describing these things, but you can see just a little bit of swerving there to try and get the tyres up to temperature. The rears are there, just need to get the fronts there now. And you see there just lots and lots and lots of understeer, and it's just the front just feels dull. Like that's the best way I can describe it. It just feels a bit dull, like it's not quite you know, glued into the track, not quite, you know, dialed into the track. That's the word I was looking for. It's tyres up to temperature now at least. And I am on heavy fuel, it must be said. You see the bottom right there, 78.7 litres. There's an awful lot of fuel. As I finally get to the end of my lap and have another spin. So we'll try that again. I'll do another outlap, and this is the end of the outlap. So, yeah, certainly got to be careful on the throttle, and I've learned my lesson now to hopefully hit the exit corner. Yeah, better line. I might play on the throttle. Yeah, it's quite dull. And like I said, I've got a lot of fuel, so that probably isn't helping. But it's hard to describe, really. But dull is the best word I can come up with, really. It just doesn't quite feel right, and it doesn't feel how you'd expect it to. It's not so lively. Even though I'm having to correct the wheel, there's just no feel. I guess feel is probably the best word. The force feedback isn't the best on it, that's for sure. But again, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, that varies wildly. If you look on Twitter, people's comments on it, some people are saying the force feedback's great. Other people are saying there is none. The force feedback's horrendous. Some people are saying that the Formula cars are undrivable, and like me, they're quite dull and easy to drive. Well, not easy, but relatively easy to drive, and quite dull feeling. So I don't know whether there's discrepancies in the platforms between PC and Xbox, is what I've really compared to. As I mentioned with Noble, he's got an Xbox, and you know, perhaps it's between different wheels, or perhaps people have just done a tweak their setup, or I don't really know, but there's certainly an awful lot of confusion around people just sort of trying to get to grips with this game, which isn't great considering it's been in development for so long, and it was also a community-led development game. So you'd think it would be a better release, to be honest with you. But anyway, a bit of a more successful lap, this one. So it's a low 1 minute 40 in the Formula C car, and once we get to the end of this lap through the chicane, we'll be able to find time for the Formula B car, and then we'll be able to move on to the Formula A car, which is effectively the Formula 1 car, as I mentioned. So full throttle through the final corner then. And it's going to be a 1 minute. 32-ish, wasn't it? So it's good at 8 seconds or so faster than the Formula C car. We'll see how much faster the Formula 1 car is. And, well, straight away, that sounds a lot beefier, doesn't it? It's roaring. And see me just pausing there briefly. I was just trying to see if I could display the options, display the assist, just to show that it's all off. But it's actually not in the start menu there, so I can't. But I did check, and it's definitely all off. I'm being really cautious on the spot on the exit there. And this car's got DRS and KERS. The last car had a bit of KERS actually as well, but I couldn't work out if it was manual or not. I was pressing the KERS button, but it wasn't quite responding as I expected it to, so I think it might have been auto KERS. This has got full DRS and KERS, which I have mapped now to buttons. So you see there's well tyres instantly warm. They come out of tyre blankets. And just trying to get to grips with this car. And I already prefer this car. The seating position's a bit nicer. It just feels a bit more natural, a bit more lively on the front end. That's probably helped by the warm tyres, of course. Again, look, bottom right, 240 litres of fuel. There, that's what I mean. That's what I meant when I mentioned it earlier. You get the moments like that when the rear just sort of slides on you. You don't expect it, but it doesn't spin. It just sort of drifts across the track. And I feel like perhaps that's the game trying to be user-friendly and not be too aggressive in that it's just going to spit you off at every opportunity, which would be more realistic. But it just makes this car weird to drive. It just doesn't feel right. Again, it's hard to describe. So we'll get a bit on two wheels there, hit the curb, and it just doesn't feel right. There's just something about it. It just feels... It's not like it's dull, because the front end is not too bad on this. The turning isn't great. But it just feels a bit... It just feels wrong. I mean, I don't really know how to describe it, but it does feel wrong. Hopefully you get a feel for that as we watch a couple of laps here. See, run a bit wide. DRS is now open. See the bottom right, the DRS light is lit up, and I'm using a bit of curves as well for runs the line. There we go. It's quite cool because the curves will actually recharge itself, but you do only get the standard, is it 6.5 seconds per lap, but it does have to recharge itself. See, under braking, the curves is filling up, so I've gone massively deep that first turn. So a little bit too deep there. Need to brake a little bit more cautiously next time. I'm going to try to go flat through there, but this car's got too much power for that. Bit of a better exit though. Bit of curves on the exit as well. Bit of DRS. Down to third. And it's not looking too bad for now. I've got a lot of understeer because I've been going too deep and things, but it's looking relatively normal for now. Let's see if we get that sliding moment again. Yes, we do. Again, look, the car just sort of goes sideways, but you don't need to correct it. It's to me, if I compare it to F1 2013 or F1 2012, which is, you know, fairly similar eras for this car, the F1 games, the official F1 games, are a million times better for the F1 cars. Because I've got massively deep, they're almost on the gravel, and they feel so. Of course, they're not realistic by any stretch, but they feel consistent. You know, you've got too much traction, but you've also got too much front end grip, you've got too much downforce. It's generally a bit overkill on the kind of the levels for it, but it's balanced. It feels right. It does what you expect it to do. It's predictable. This isn't predictable. This is quite strange. You've got to be a bit cautious, and you feel like you can't push. Well, I felt like I couldn't push. You know, the power is as I mentioned, the rear end of the power is something that you can predict. It's something that they've got quite right. The power application is quite nice. So I forget I had a 7th gear for a brief moment there. But it's just the turn in and the understeer, and like there, look there. That was just, the rear just instantly slid out, and there was no warning of that. It just did it, which would be fine if it's then spun me off, but it didn't. The car just sort of slides and then it comes back to you. Like a clean for track there, and it just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like a Formula 1 car because it's not lively enough. It's not grippy enough. It just feels, again, a little bit dull, but not in a different way to the Formula B car. And I'm probably not doing this justice with describing it because it's incredibly hard. And I'm not good with words at the best of times, but you know, I'm hoping you there again. It did it then. See, it's just that shouldn't happen. You know, you can slide into a corner, you can kind of understeer and four-wheel drift into a corner. That's sort of normal. But that would usually end up in a spin, because you normally drift. The rear end would step out, and you'd spin unless you correct it. It doesn't just sort of drift sideways like that, and then it comes back to you. It's just weird. You see there a little bit as well, just over the bumps. It just looks a bit unnatural. And well, I've done a couple of laps on this one, because obviously this is the main attraction, so to speak. That's why I've done a few more on this one, and we'll do one more. That's almost spin it there. See, again, that was quite natural. Having to correct the oversteer there, otherwise it would have spun. And it's quite easy to do that. That is right. That's natural. That works. As I actually remember, I've got a 7th gear this time. And 7 minutes down on the previous 1 minute 27, so it's already quite a bit faster. But we'll see if we can improve on this final lap. Making a little bit earlier this time. Get it slowed down. Get it turned in. Nicely hit my apex. And all over the curb. Don't want to be doing that, but I've got away with it. A little bit wide. Easy on throttle. Keep it nice and tight. On throttle again now. There we are, up to 5th. All over the Astros down from the exit. That was a pretty nice first sector. 2/10 up. A little bit deep there though. Tried to go on 2nd to make the car rotate, but didn't quite work. And the gears once again down to 2nd. Get also down, but again that horrible slidey weird thing happens. And it wasn't. It's probably still one of the better corners I've done through there, but it wasn't great. And bearing in mind as well, it's not like I've just driven F1 games. I've driven R Factor. I've driven FSR. Very wide there, get away with it. I've driven iRacing, obviously driven all the Formula 1 games, and as I spin there in the end, managed to spin it. But I've driven quite a few games, is my point, so this isn't like I'm just comparing it to the official F1 games, but regardless, it just doesn't feel right. But anyway, that was on 1 minute 27, or 1 minute 26 actually was the best lap, and I was up on it then, so I probably would have got a mid 125, so that's about another, 6, 7, 8 seconds quicker than the Formula B again. But there we are anyway. I hope you enjoyed that video, and yeah, to me, I'm just not enjoying the F1 car on Project Cars, but I do enjoy the sports cars much more. So there will be more videos up. I don't want to say it'll be my last video on those cars because I do want to do a career mode, so we'll see what that gets to. But that'll be my last video concentrating on those cars anyway. I'll probably do some more videos with a few different tracks, a few different times, a few different weather conditions, and I'll also then move on to races very soon. And I thank you for watching. Bye-bye.